Good evening, everyone.
Kavod Harav, how are you?
Baruch Hashem, thank you. Okay. Yeah, it looks like we're doing Yud Aleph. So now he gets into this issue. Maim sheyesh lo safek im naaseh b'hem melacha v'lo, im lav. So the question is like this: what about if you're not sure if some labor or usage was done to this water? If it's a doubt. So see the Torah, exactly what it says there. Yeah, so or it's the other option is he says safek im, there's a doubt im yesh b'hem shiur, if there's enough water there. Im lav, or im hen teorim, or if they're pure, or tmeim, or impure, or safek im natal yadav, or there's a doubt whether he washes hands. Im lav tahor, so it's tahor. So what does that mean? We already said, right, that when it comes to these rules, when there's a doubt, we go lenient, So here also the same thing. All these doubts, we go lenient. Good to know. Shekol safek tahara b'yadayim tahor, right? As we said, every doubt is lenient. V'tzarich sheyeh b'mayim revi'it. Okay, so let's just see what we can do with that before we go on. Let's see the Bet Yosef. So it says Bet Yosef on this issue, Mishnah beperek bet Masechet Yadayim. It's in the second parak of Yadayim. Mishnah there. Ach ma shekatav safek im natal yadav. Oh, so he says, but this issue that he wrote, that there's a doubt whether he washed his hands or not. And no Mishnah, so it's not really written explicitly in the Mishnah. Rambam kitabo. So who wrote this? It was the Rambam. In the sixth parak of brachot, laws of blessings. Also, right, that's how he explained also the Mishnah as well, the Rambam. He has a commentary on the Mishnah also. It could be that he holds, this is what they said in this parak in Shabbat, Samech Bet Amud Bet. Aval Moshe masab, masha lo masha, litlan ba, right? So he holds it as also this Gemara says the same thing basically. That when there's a doubt, we go lenient. Even though Rashi explains over there Binyan Acher in a different way. And even though we concluded over there the la miltahi that it's not really the main idea there. Ana mashai meloch ofnai maya, because Rav Chazda said right that I'm washing, using a lot of water. So the reason he was using a lot of water, as we said before, he didn't want to come to poverty. As we said, right, when you're using a little amount of minuscule water, so then it can bring you to poverty because you're not using enough water. So he used a lot of water in order to avert that problem. But it says, Medina, but it says, but halachically speaking, he doesn't have to wash again. When you read the uadin, so it seems like the same thing applies here regarding other doubts. That even though he doesn't have to go back and wash, so he says, but there's still an issue of poverty, right? So in other words, you don't have to be stringent, but if you want to avoid any issues with poverty, so then do what you have to do. Okay. Sounds good. So then he goes on. Katab Rabbeinu Manuach, says this rabbi, the Tme'im b'torim adim ad yadayim kai. So he says, Komar shayat shomer et yadav v'nitzapik lo. So he says, right, the situation was there like this, that he was trying to guard his hands from becoming impure, and he had a doubt, im isyach dato, if he diverted his attention from the hands. And therefore they're impure, or lo isyach datorim, or let's say he did not divert, and also therefore his hands are clean. So so it says there is to explain the amayim is talking about the water, the fish and mayim psulim, because the water which is qualified from washing his hands, yadayim, ketemeim hem chashuvim, they're considered like impure. Okay, interesting. So yeah, we got a little bit to go here. So it says katab od tama dechol safek. He writes also another thing, which is that that any doubt with taharat yadayim when it comes to the purity of the hands, tahor, as we said, right? It's pure. We go lenient. So why is that? Because it's rabbinical, the whole thing about washing your hands. So therefore, right, when there's a doubt regarding something rabbinic, we go lenient. Katuv b'tumat hadeshen, says in Tumat Hadeshen, shenir'eh de'u adin plugta derabavta. So it says the same thing also applies apparently to something which is rabbinical, right? It's a dispute amongst the rabbis. We talked about this already. There also we go lenient, right? We go like the lenient opinion. So it's because it's also doubt. In other words, when the rabbis have an argument about something, so it follows that there's a doubt there. That's the whole point, right? So therefore, right, we say that we go lenient also regarding that as well. Right? That's it's good. You can't beat that, right? Go lenient. So it says hatam nami safeku kiman kaimalan midechayel v'tana shechol safek shevetarat yadayim tahor ach mai deashkechai deashkachna biskei agonim bedia leisur velo ashkachan biskei agon echad bedia leatir ela dedaikinan. So it says then why is it that when it comes to the works of the geonim they all seem to be stringent and nobody's lenient? דגין אמינא בהוכחה דהכי סבר קשה לסתור בזה דברים פרשים לידיעה. Um, so he says, but it's difficult to contradict regarding this things which were said explicitly. How can I see the end of it? וכתב רבא, זה רב"ד, פרק ו' מלכות מלכות, laws of blessings, שאף על פי שכל ספק בטהרת ידיים טהור, even though when it comes to, as we said, right, every doubt that we have regarding the hands is pure, right, we go lenient, im kol ze, im yesh lo mayim lirchotz, but he says, nevertheless, if he does have water to wash, right, אומרים לו, קום ולחוץ והוציא עצמך מן הספק. We tell him, he says, if he has water, we tell him, listen, like, remove yourself from the doubt. So wash again. Right? Which is really ironic that he says this. You know why? Because the whole point is that we're not supposed to tell him that. So then why is he saying we should? Right? So therefore, you have to say, right, that what he's saying over here is that not that you're obligated to do this, but we just it's a good piece of advice. That's what we're talking about. Okay, it's understood. So let's see the Shulchan Aruch here. Yud Aleph. Okay, so no, this is not the one. Right, so it says here like this: ספק, מים שיש לו ספק, אם נעשה בהם מלאכה או לא. Right, if there's a doubt whether there was labor done with this water or not, או שיש לו ספק אם יש בהם קישור אם לאו, or there's a doubt whether there's enough water in there. Right, which is, as we said, right, how much is enough water? Revi'it, right? That's the amount that is the minimum. או אם הם טמאים או טהורים, or let's say we're not sure if it's pure or not pure, or ספק אם נטל ידיו בלאו אם לאו, or also there's a doubt whether he washed his hands or not, tahor. So in all these cases we say it's right, be lenient, it's pure. So he adds in the parentheses, the whole safek tahara b'yadayim tahor. So the rule is, as we said, right, that any doubt which arises with the hands is pure. ויש מי שאומר שעל כל זאת, שעל כל זאת, אם יש בו מים אחרים, שיטול ידיו ויוציא את עצמו מן הספק. Right, as we said, there's also another opinion, which was the Ravad, as we saw, right, that if you have some more water, you know what, as a good measure, wash again. The truth is, right, that that's not the halacha. Halacha is that we don't need to wash again. Okay. One time I heard, in the name of the Arizal, he said regarding the Ravad, who's the Ravad, by the way? This is Rabbi Abraham ben David. He was from Spain also, just like the Rambam, but different area of Spain. They came from different areas. So the Rambam was in Cordova, if I'm not mistaken. And this guy was like, I think, more in the south, somewhere. Anyway, the point is, right, that like close to France, close to the French border. That's why some people think that the Ravad was French, because he was close to France. But the truth is, he was in Spain. He wasn't in France. Okay. Anyway, right. Um, so the Ravad, right, says the Arizal that it says Eliyahu Navi was revealed to him, and he taught him Kabbalah, to the Ravad. So why do I tell you this? The reason is because you many times you see in the words of the Ravad, like stringencies, which are like more like saintliness, things like this. So that could be, because he learned Kabbalah from Eliyahu Navi that he was, a little bit more saintly in his approach to halakha. We do find this, in his approach a little bit, but we can't attribute everything to that. After all, he's a posek, whatever, right? So anyway, right? He's not a mystic, he's a posek, Okay. Anyway, so let's go on. So it says Ramah here, Mishelo Natal Yadav. Right, somebody who didn't wash his hands, v'nagab b'mayim, and he touched water, right? Lo nifselu, right? Oh, there you go, right? This is what I was looking for. Remember, I told you guys that if somebody didn't his hands are not washed, and he touched some water, he dipped his finger in there. So it says that we don't disqualify that water from washing with it. So your finger doesn't disqualify the water. So the Ramah says this, right, explicitly over here. We already saw this in the Bet Yosef last week. ולא מקרה מים טמאים, אבל אסור לרחוץ ידיו עם מים שנטל בהם חברו כבר. But he says, one thing you shouldn't do is, right, that if your friend already washed his hands with that water, that you shouldn't wash your hands with that water. The truth is that last week when we were doing the Bet Yosef, we saw not like this. You are allowed to use water which was already used one time, right? Except as we mentioned, right? If it was used for washing your hands in the morning, that's a different story. But besides that, there was an opinion there we saw that you don't have to worry about this. So okay, it's interesting. There's a different opinion here apparently. This is Trumat Deshen, and what we saw in the Beit Yosef was not from here. It was from a different source. So okay, that's interesting. Needs a little bit of research about that, regarding how to reconcile all these things. But anyway, that's the end of the Shulchan Aruch. By the way, it's an interesting dichotomy that he says here, which is that on the one hand, if you touch the water, it doesn't disqualify the water, but if you wash your hands with it, it does disqualify. How does that work, right? Seems to contradict one the other. It's very interesting. Okay. So therefore, right, my humble opinion, what we saw in the Bet Yosef last week was more, accurate in terms of the logic. If you say that by putting your finger in there, you haven't disqualified the water, then also you should say that somebody washes hands also is not disqualified. What difference does it make? Okay, whatever. It's interesting. So I guess we'll go to the next one. You bet. Right. So now we're going to continue regarding what we mentioned yesterday, which is talking about frozen water, right? Whether it's snow or hail, right, or ice or whatever, right? All those things. We're gonna see what's going on with that. So yeah, let's see. Let's go. Let's get into that. Yeah, I don't see it in the tour, but let's look in the bit Yosef. Mm. Okay, so let's see the bit Yosef. It says like this. Katav Rambam, says the Rambam, Besof Hilchot Mikvot, in the laws of Mikvot. Kli Shaya Bo Revi'it, right? If you have a vessel, and there was there Revi'it of water, mine, Ksherim, which are kosher, right? It says Bedek Abayit, Netilat Yadayim, it's kosher for Netilat Yadayim. Natan letocho miat mayim psulim. Okay, interesting. So, right. So what happened was that there already was kosher water in there, and then he also added some water which is not kosher. So it says it's kosher now, the mixture. Interesting. Natal mina kli a shiur shenatan. So let's say right now he took from that vessel, right, the amount that he put in there. And now there's only revi'it left. Bilbad kishaita, like it was before. How does a psula? Now it's disqualified this water. Why? Because the disqualified water it now is a part of this revi'it. So there's not enough clean water in there. But so he says the reason is because what it says in the second paragraph of Zvachim, Chab Bet Amud Aleph, Amar Yesh Lakish Kol Amashlim Lemei Mikveh Mashlim Lemei Kior. So he says, right, that Resh Lakish says that whoever right completes the water of the mikveh, whatever completes that will also complete the water which is in the basin. Lefi lemi lemi revi'it. When it comes to revi'it, eno mashlim doesn't do it. Lemeote natan se'ah natal se'ah. So that comes to a case where he put some and he took out some. Katav od sham. He writes furthermore there. Kola ole b'lemidat mikveh ketit hanidok ole l'shiur revi'it. Whichever can complete the mikveh when it comes to mud, which is thin, whatever, not too thick. It also completes for the side of the Rebbe. Upek vav milchot brachot, 6 perkot brachot. Katav gamken kol ha'olah lemidat mikveh ole l'shiur Rebbe. Also says the same thing over there regarding that whatever completes the mikveh also completes the Rebbe. ודברים העולים למידת מקווה שנויים בפרק זין. So it says those things which do combine, when it comes to the size of a mikveh, they're taught in the 7th parak Masechet Mikvaot. Vehem Asheleg. So now it goes into the right, itemizes each one, right? So what are we talking about? Which can complete the mikveh? So we're talking about snow, the abarad, right? And we're talking about hail, V'akifor, right, and frost, V'aglid, right, which is like some kind of ice, V'amelech, and also salt. Interesting. V'titani dok, and also we have the mud, right, which is loose. Ketzad mikveh sheyesh. How is that so? How's that? How so? Mikveh sheyesh bo 40 seah. If you have a mikveh, it's 40 seah. Chaser echad. It's lacking a little bit. Nafla mehen seah. So if a seah falls from there, comes out, spills out, the tocho he'eluhu. One more time. Right, so if one se'ah falls from there, I'm sorry, not from there, from them, right? So what does that mean? From the snow or all that stuff we mentioned, right? All those substances that we mentioned. If some of that falls into the mikveh, helu, they do complete the mikveh. Tanan Nami, we also learned in the Mishnah something else. Shafiru hevi arba'im se'ah, even if he bought 40 se'ah of sheleg of snow, בתחילה והניחן באוקה ריסקן, שם הר הזה מקווה שלם, right? So this is what we said yesterday, right? If you put some, snow in there, right, which is the same as ice, and you just melted it down, right? So that's a kosher mikveh because, it's not drawn water. So that's exactly what he's saying over here. But instead of talking about ice, he's talking about snow, right? Which is the same thing. Frozen water. So, but you learn from here also a different element of this, which we didn't say yesterday, which is that he's telling you here, not that he just put the water, the ice into the snow into the mikveh and let it melt. He's saying, right, that he actively melted it. By what? By crushing it, right? He crushes it, takes like a shovel, whatever, something to crush it. So even though it'll melt faster like that because you're putting pressure on it, nevertheless, it's going to be kosher anyway. That mikveh. וכן פסק הרמב"ם, this is the Rambam Paskins, ולפי זה הוא הדין לרביעית מהנה. So it says, if that's the case, also here it's the same thing, right? That does complete the רביעית. Im risko, if he crushed that ice or the snow, whatever it is. עד שנעשה מים, until it becomes water. אפילו כל הרביעית מריסוק דברים הללו. So it says, even if all the רביעית is from this, right, this crushed ice, whatever. So it says regarding the loose mud, it was already explained above. Okay, interesting. Let's see how much we got here. It's a long one. Okay, let's see what we can do. So it goes on. Says the mashma. So apparently it says it implies shame me mishelo natal yadav nagam b'mayim, right? So it says implies from there that if somebody who didn't wash his hands, right, touched the water, nifselu atam mayim, that water is going to be disqualified. Tilat yadayim. Sharei katvu poskim, because the poskim said sheim natal yadav echad lo ishafshifenu bechaverta. The poskim said that if he washed one hand, he shouldn't then rub it with the other one. Because the water which is on the washed hand, it's going to become impure because of the hand. Which is not washed yet. And then it's going to come and right, it's going to defile the other hand. According to this, he says, that what they said, right? The rabbis, that if he gave his friend to water to his friend, right, with his fist, eno ole with his palm, eno ole doesn't come up for you can't wash your hands like that because your hands are not a vessel, as we already mentioned before. Because he didn't use a vessel. So that implies that only because of this reason doesn't work. But just the fact that his friend touched it, right, that's not really a problem. לא כפתינן, we're not particular about that. לכן הוא, כתבו מים שנחתום מדיח בהם. So he says, also that which they wrote regarding water that the baker washes את ידיו, his hands. כשרים, they're kosher. כל הנה צריך לומר דהרי בידיים נטולים. So it says, must say that it's talking about hands which were washed already. אמנם, בתוספות, בסוטה, מצאתי, על מנהג העולם שזורקים מן הכלי לידו אחד, ואחר כך משפשפה בחברתה, שפיר דמה, כיוון שמתחילה נטל מן הכלי, כדתניא, בתוספתא למסכת ידיים, הנותן מים לחברו ובחופניו, והדתניא נטל ידו אחד משפשף בחברתו, טמא התם איירד שאין מתכוון ליטול, אלא ידו אחד, ולכך שפשפה, חברתה או טמאה, עד כאן שלום. Okay, so he's getting back into this topic, right? We just mentioned, which we mentioned a few minutes ago. Which is, if you dip your hands into the water, does that disqualify the water? And also, if you washed before with that water, does that disqualify the water? These two issues right now he's addressing over here. So we're coming back to what we already discussed before last week, and also we just saw in the Ramah a few minutes ago. So let's get this straight, right? This whole thing. What is he saying here? Let's go step by step, slowly, and we'll try to straighten it out. So he's trying to say over here, let me just see who it is, this guy. This rabbi, who is he? This is the Tumat edition, right? Okay. Tumat edition. So he says that at which we said, that if the hand was dipped into the water, that it's still kosher to use that water to wash your hands. So he says we're talking about when the hands were clean, the hands that went into that water were clean, and then the water is still usable for washing hands. But otherwise, right, if they were not clean, those hands, so then he's trying to say, right, that they're they don't do the job. So they're disqualified. That's the opinion of Tumat Hadeshin. So then, right, says Tosfot, says that Bet Yosef, that then we have the opinion of Tosfot in Masechet Sotah. So he says like this, ולכך שפשפה בחברתה טמאה מן השנה, עד כאן מן השנה, משמע דסתם ידיים אין פוסלים מים. So he says, right, that from Tosfot, says Bet Yosef, you learn that the hands do not disqualify the water, that when they touch the water. So he says, right, and we don't have to establish this, qualify this, to say it's talking about water which was touched only by clean hands. So he says not necessarily like that, according to Tosfot. So in other words, what do we see over here? Exactly right what I pointed out before, that there's a machlokat about this between the Tumat Hadeshen on the one side, and that's, by the way, what we saw in the Ramah, in the last halakha that we did. Shulchan Aruch, he brought the Tumat Hadeshen, who is stringent relatively, and then Tosfot is even more lenient than him. So what does that mean? According to Tumat tradition, if the hands that touch the water themselves were not clean, so then the water is disqualified. But according to Tosfot that we just mentioned here, the Bet Yosef, it doesn't really matter. Any hands which touch the water do not disqualify the water. It doesn't matter whether they're clean or not. It doesn't matter whether they're not pure or not, right? I should say pure, not clean. We're talking about purity, not really, physical cleanliness. Okay, so machloket, interesting. So as we said, right, there's the different opinions regarding this. So the Rama paskind like the Trumat Hadeshin, a little bit more stringent, but then we also have Tosfot is more lenient. Okay, interesting. Very nice. So let's go on. So he says, down, he says, however, it says Bet Yosef, Nireh the dochaku, so it seems like it's a little bit forced. Ktsat, מה שהם מחלקים, that which they differentiate between, בין מתכוון איתו, is intending to wash his hands ידו, יחד או שתיים, or to wash both his hands, ואין לסמוך עליו, so he says, you know what, don't rely on this, he says, Bet Yosef, right? Meaning what? Don't rely on Tosfot that we just learned here. Linyan shifshuf yad, when it comes to rubbing your hand one against the other, b'chaverta, teha kol poskim katvu be'edia. So this is why, because all the poskim wrote explicitly that leisur that it's forbidden to do this. But it says if just regular hands, touched the water which is in the vessel. So if you're going to be lenient with that, you didn't really lose. So in other words, it's fine. You're doing good. You're fine. You're good. Right? To use water like that. Okay. The nachtom sheveti le'el. So it says this issue that I brought, regarding the baker, mashma de lo ayre be'adayim shenatru, doesn't really imply that we're talking about hands which were already washed, they're clean. So therefore, he doesn't accept the Trumat Hadeshin who wrote that, it's only talking about clean hands. So he says, nevertheless, it's kosher to use that water. So he says, but we can't differentiate between disqualification of the impure water, the right on the hands, בשעת נטילת, שבטומאת במים שבכלי לצורך נטילה, דבקל נטמעו שעל ידיים בשעת נטילה. Oh, so now he brings here another element, right, which is important to understand. So again, right, I'll reiterate. What is he saying here? He's saying, we can't, however, we can differentiate between disqualifying, right, the impurity of the water, impure water, shalayadayim, which is on the hands, beshat netilat, which at the time of the washing, the betumat amayim shebekli letzorach netilat, the bekel nitmeu shalayadayim beshat netilat, v'lachen v'chach shifshef v'chaberta tamea. So he says, therefore, right, since we can say that the water which is on the hands already, which was washed, on the hand which was washed, it can't disqualify. It's not clear. It's not kosher water, that water. So therefore, if he rubs that water onto his other hand, right, it's going to be impure. So that's the end of it. So this wasn't the Beit Yosef saying all this. This was the um, this was the Tumat I think. Yeah. Mhm. So he brought this whole thing here. All these different, several, various opinions here. Okay, very interesting. So anyway, Garcina Besot Perk Shlosha Shachlu. So it goes on, right? That we say in this perk, which is in Brachot, Taf Nun Amud Bet, Tan Rabbanan, Yain Ad Shelo Natan Letocho Maim. So it says when it comes to water, if you didn't put any water in there, I'm sorry, when it comes to wine, if you didn't put any water in there, and we don't bless Borei Pia Giffen. So why is that, by the way? The reason is because if the wine is not diluted, right, it's too strong to drink. So therefore we can't bless on that, It's not the proper right ratio of water and wine there to make it drinkable. So don't bless on that. Notrim mimenu yadayim. It says, but we can wash hands with that wine. Mishanatan etocho mayim. So it says once he put in there some water, right? He diluted it. And notrim mimenu yadayim. So then we cannot use the washing hands. Rabbi Eliezer. Let's go into Rabbi Eliezer. But the rabbis say ben kach or ben kach. Right? Either way, they say en notrim mimenu yadayim. We don't wash the hands with that. Pirash Rashi explains. And that we don't bless on that. The fish yanam chazak. So it's no, right? So this is like something which is known that in those days, right, the wine was very strong, much stronger than our wine. So, our wine, right, is about, let's say, on the average 12% alcohol, right? Something like that, right? Look in the bottle. 11, 12, 13%, usually not more than that, right? But in those days, right, it was like a much higher percentage. Probably more like 40%, 50%. So it was too strong, to drink, without dilution. So what they would do is right dilute it with water. So they would put like 3 parts water and 1 part wine, and that was like the nice mix, nice, right? But if it's undiluted altogether, right, it's too strong. So therefore, you shouldn't bless on that word Pia Giffen. That's what he's saying, right? Too strong to enjoy that. So anyway, in those days the wine was very strong. Nowadays, by the way, the wine is not so strong as you know. So a lot of poskim say, several poskim I've seen, they say nowadays the wine does not really require to be diluted at all because it's not so strong. But anyway, according to the Kabbalah, we do dilute it, like 3 drops of water. And what's the reason why we do that? And whoever's been to my house knows about these things. So
don't like red wine. Us don't like red wine.
So the answer is right that according to Kabbalah, wine, right, is like din, judgment. And so it's very strong. It has a very strong effect on people. It can knock you out, kind of, like put you into a bad state of affairs in your mind. So therefore, in order to alleviate that problem, we dilute it with the water. So what does the water do? It puts the quality of chesed, kindness in there. So it right alleviates the problem of the wine that it's too strong, too much din, too much judgment there.
They say 3 drops though. It doesn't need to be like 3 sloshes, right?
3 what? 3 sloshes? I'm sorry.
It's 3 drops. It's very little bit of water, right?
Yeah. In other words, 3 drops is like the minimum. It does the job. You know what I mean? But then of course you could put okay, like 3 drops, whatever.
I'm not a fan of diluting wine.
Yeah, okay, that's good. That's fine. You have what to rely on. No problem. So as we said, right, you have what to rely on. The truth is also, my rabbi used to tell us, Allah Shalom. I remember Maran, he used to say that the wine today, anyway, it's diluted, They diluted, they already diluted the factory. They put like 10% water in there, something like that. So whatever it is. But here's the thing, right? I have to tell you the truth. I cannot tell a lie, right? You know who said that, right? One of the presidents. So, right, when we say that they dilute the wine at the factory, what it means is we're talking about like standard wine, your standard table wine, the Kiddush wine, like stuff like that, right? But when it comes to like the high quality wine, high end wine, like Cabernet and Merlot, right, things like this, which are high end, so those are not diluted with water at all, right? And you know why that is, by the way? Why they don't dilute those? Because I was told by one person, in Israel, he told me that if you dilute the wine with water and you bottle it like that, it'll destroy the wine. It ruins it, the high end wines, So the high end wines don't tolerate dilution, like in the bottle. You can do that when you drink it, but at the production, you don't do that. So those are not diluted, they're like straight from the factory, straight from the vat, right? Whatever, right? That's where they come from. Okay, so just should know, right? Disclaimer, so don't now, go to Google, and try to contradict me because okay, right? That's why I said that. Okay, so anyway, right, as we said, you know, that's the reason why we don't bless on undiluted wine, right? In those days, because it was too strong. Um, so by the way, even if it's very strong, let's say, right? Why is it a problem to bless on that? I like it strong, I want my wine to be like, whiskey, I mean, what do you care? Like, let me bless on it, you know? So there's a concept like this, in halakha, that you shouldn't bless on something which has like a, objectionable taste. You know what I mean? Why? Can you bless Hashem? You blessing him that you ate something objectionable? There's no such thing like that. So you're not really enjoying it at all. And that's the reason why you don't bless. That's the concept there.
So I shouldn't bless on diluted wine then.
But when it comes to liquor, though, right? Even though it's very strong, right? We do bless on the liquor, right? Shakol, we bless. So then why is that different from the wine, right? On the wine, which is very strong, we don't bless. Liquor, we do bless. Why? Why is that? So the answer is because that's the way you enjoy the liquor. In other words, people like it that way. That's why they drink it that way. When it comes to the wine, though, to drink such a strong wine like that, it's not really enjoyable at all. You don't enjoy it. So that's why we don't bless on it. Okay, whatever. I'm just trying to, to explain to you this whole thing, right? This to go to go comprehensive a little bit. Okay, whatever. So anyway, right? So as we said, so it's like a double thing here, right? On the one hand, we don't bless on it, undiluted wine. On the other hand, we do wash our hands with it. But once you dilute it, right, then we bless on it, but we don't wash our hands with it, right? So it's like it turns upside down, the whole thing, right? So okay, well it's 9:30, so I guess we'll stop here, Bezrat Hashem. We'll continue. We're not going to finish this today. So Bezrat Hashem, we'll continue, right? Not tomorrow. Tomorrow's the holiday. So you should have a Shana Tova. Have a great new year. Bezrat Hashem, all of you. Wealth, health, and happiness, all the blessings, all the good things for the new year. Bezrat Hashem. And so we'll see you after the holiday, right? Which is going to be Sunday night.
Sunday's a fast day, correct?
Yes, it is. Some Gedalia, right?
So we'll
Gedalia.
still have class even after.
Yeah, it's a good question. Oh, it's a good question. It's good you pointed that out. So the truth is, now, the sunset is a little bit earlier. So you know what? I'll let you guys know I'll let you guys know. I'll get in touch with you guys. I'll let you know what's going on. I gotta think about it a little bit. Yeah, you're right. But the truth is, you know what? I managed tonight, right? For instance, tonight I managed to come home and eat dinner and then start the class. So I don't see why I can't do that on Sunday. If you know what I mean. So I think we can do it. Because now it's earlier. The sunset is getting earlier. So on Sunday, it's like sunset is going to be like 6:30. So that gives us another 2 hours. So I think we should be able to hack it. If I come a little bit late, 10, 15 minutes, don't kill me, all right? Don't kill me. Don't send any assassins over here, you know what I mean? It's not so bad. Okay, so right, so we'll try to do it on Sunday night. B'ezras Hashem. Have a great New Year, Shana Tova, and yeah. So somebody texted me from Israel today. So they sent like 200 missiles over from Iran. Today, right? Ballistic missiles. So they told me, who got killed, right? Who got killed? 5 cows, 1 chicken coop, and 1 Palestinian guy got killed. So. That's all miracles, you should know, right? Hashem did miracles for us, It's incredible. It pays to be a Jew. It's good to be a Jew. I answered this person back. I told him, I said, well, for that they could use the BB gun. They didn't need 200 missiles for that. What can I tell you? It is what it is. Anyway, it's not easy. There's a war going on. So B'ezras Hashem, we have to keep praying, and learn more Torah, so Hashem should protect us. Baruch Hashem, He is protecting us. You can see, right? All these miracles that are going on, which are really, really, truly incredible. Then my son came, tonight, to visit me when I was having dinner. So he turns on his phone, right? And he shows me this Palestinian guy, who got killed. So you know how he got killed? Like, one of the fragments, of these missiles fell on him like directly on his body, and they have a video of that. I was like, oh my God, that is a fragment of a rocket falls on him, like, of a missile directly on his body, like, just crushed him, mashed him. I couldn't believe it. I was like, went out of my mind. Okay, whatever. Anyway, B'ezras Hashem, what can I tell you? We have to thank Hashem, for all these good things, for all these miracles. We'll see you, B'ezras Hashem, Sunday night, God willing. Laila Tov.
Thank you so much.
All the best.